Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live Wednesday night edition here on the Rock Pile. If you're listening on YouTube, if you're listening on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you have any questions for tonight, please just make sure you place them in the comment box. I'll try to bring over as many comments and questions over as I can. If you're tuning in for the first time, just subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You can catch all the Rock Pile shows and playbacks, and you can also catch the Mohawk Valley Sports Watch. Any interviews I have on Saturday mornings, I post them up on the YouTube channel, so just make sure to hop over there and subscribe to the channel. So tonight's special guest, I'm excited. We were talking a little bit before coming on live. I'm going to bring him over now. I'm going to talk to Rome's Archi Cianfrocco. So let's see if I can get him on here with me. There's Ark. How we doing, Ark?
Hey, Rock. How you doing?
I'm doing very good. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for the invite.
I got a lot of pressure. I was telling you, your mom messaged me before tonight, and she said, make sure you go easy on my son.
Not surprising, especially if you ask my older sisters.
Well, listen, I told your mom, I'm a mama's boy. So in my mom's eyes, I could do no wrong, and I'll always be my mom's little boy.
Yeah, well, we have a thing in our family. She calls me her S-U-N son. So
That's awesome. Well, Ark, listen, I want to dive right into it. I want to get into, some of your early years. I know you played Rome National Little League and some Legion baseball, but take us through your early years in Rome.
Oh, man, there's a lot of memories, a lot of good memories, Most of it was focused around, Rome National Little League, right? I just spent my days over at the field all day, every day. I mean, even if I wasn't playing in a game, I was over there running around, just riding my bike back and forth from my house on West Dominic Street. So just a lot of good memories, just a lot of probably lifelong people and friends that I've met. Obviously now even through Facebook, I can still reach out and have a contact with, some of the guys I played with as little leaguers, which is kind of cool. We share old pictures of, team pictures of where we were for, Rome Cable and things like that. So just a lot of good memories, and I all the way up through Legion, right? Legion was a huge part of me kind of moving on. I mean, that's kind of where I first got, recognized by the Purdue coach, and, it was during a Smith Post game, right? So I just owe a lot to, a lot of the coaches that, were in Rome and Tony Bone and Tony Bone Jr. for kind of taking me to that next step.
And Archie, I was just going to follow up with that. When you talk about, Smith Post and playing Legion baseball, obviously the Abones come up, and Tony's going to be on this show with me as well. But talk about how special and a wealth of knowledge playing for the Abones were.
Man, I tell you, I was, I look back on my career. I was just really lucky to play for some really knowledgeable coaches, especially coming from, it's a small town, Rome, right? But I mean, we had some really good athletes, right? And lucky enough where, I coached Fida Costi, who, coached us, and then, able to move up, through high school, Coach Ev, and then, to the Abones. And I think, once I got there, I think Tony Jr. really, he was kind of like, the guy who kind of made it, played minor league baseball, had a really good baseball career, and just kind of opened my eyes up to kind of just the next level of baseball, right? Kind of really how it was really meant to be played, and not just kind of going out there as a kid, kind of playing and throwing the ball around, right?
And Archie, when you talk about the Little League days, and I think even when I played, we had Rome Federal, Rome American, Rome National.
Yeah.
It was all three leagues. And now when you look around Rome, we only have, Lee and Rome. Those three leagues are gone.
Yeah, we had some big rivalries between Rome National, American, and Federal. Yeah, it was fun, right? I mean, especially around All-Star time, because that's when it really got competitive, when you were playing an inner-city rival, right? And, that was just brought back just so many good memories. We have the same problem around here, even in San Diego, in Southern California. we had in our development here, where the community I live in, we had three different teams. We had a north, south, and central, and today we have one. So it's just really a lot of kids are playing travel baseball now or not playing baseball.
And I know, Archie, you and I were kind of talking about a little that before we came on. I asked you about, did you play a lot of the travel baseball? And even myself, when I was younger, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have, here locally, we have Accelerate Sports, a beautiful indoor sports complex. We didn't have any of that
Mhm.
stuff when I played. I know we didn't have it when you played, but how big is travel ball
Yeah.
now?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's huge around here. I mean, if you're a quote unquote baseball kid, I mean, they play travel ball for sure. You have to. They almost. I wouldn't want to say have to, but it's just every kid is thrown into that situation where travel ball and getting that experience and playing a lot during the summer. Um, and not necessarily bypassing little league, but it's definitely a little league alternative for sure, which is a little sad. I love little league, man. I always tell people around here that I'm going to go back and coach in the next couple of years. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that's some of the most special memories. Even when I got into college, I played at Fordham University, and we
Hmm.
still relive the Little League days. We still remember who we played, the teams, the coaches.
Oh,
Those memories never go
it's
away.
amazing. It's amazing what you remember, man. I can remember home runs that I've hit. Um, Everything going to get hot dogs after the game, a hot dog and soda after the game. I mean, everything. I mean, it's really crazy how it was such a big part of growing up, right? I mean, you knew when it was baseball season, you see all the kids, walking around with their little league uniforms on and, wearing it the day before opening day, just excited to kind of get going.
Archie, do you think the indoor sports complex, because like I was saying, we have one here locally and they didn't have them when we
Hmm.
played, but for the three sport athletes, right? I was basketball, baseball, football. I know you played some basketball, but like
Hmm.
nowadays, if a kid says they want to play baseball all year round, they can play it all year round now with these indoor places. Does that hurt our three sport athletes?
I am a big believer it hurts them. I Every kid that asks me, like, I need to pick between baseball and basketball. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, don't believe everything you hear, right? You don't. And even today, you don't. I mean, I know there's a lot of pressure on kids to play year round, to play travel, and I was always a big believer of saying, you know what, you just play everything, right? Because I always tell people, if I had to choose, I would have chose basketball all day long. Like, I loved basketball growing up. It was my favorite sport. I did it on the weekends. Baseball was something I was good at, but I loved basketball. And if they told me at the age of 10 or 12 that I had to choose, I probably would have picked basketball. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I just love the game, and thank goodness I didn't have to make that choice. One, because at age 12 I was probably the smallest kid on the team, but it would have been obviously a really bad decision on my part.
Well, and Archie, for a lot of the kids nowadays, again, I was talking about this a little before we came on, is a lot of the kids look forward and to me, I think they look more forward to play Legion ball than they do playing for the school. And back when I played, it was you were so happy to wear that RFA jersey. The Smith Post
Yeah.
and some of the summer league stuff came second, but it seems like that's kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah, I just think it's just kind of the pressure of quote unquote the travel ball, right? And it's a big business now. It's eroded a lot of good youth sports. I used to be heavily involved around here around just RPB basketball, which is just open basketball, just a community level basketball. We used to have 15 teams or 10 teams ranging from third and fourth grade up to 12th grade. I mean, now they're lucky if I mean, first of all, they don't have third grade through 12th grade anymore. It's like
Right.
third through fifth, and that's it, because no other kids play, and if they do, they play travel, right? It erodes kind of the local community sporting, just like little league and rec basketball and all these rec sports that, like you said, you and I grew up with and have fond memories of.
And Archie, take us through a little bit the recruiting process for you. When did you actually start getting recruited, and when did you realize, you know what, I can play Division I baseball? When did that start for you?
Well, I got a note from my sister I see online. So I'll say my first recruit was when I was playing base. I was playing catch with my sister Lori in the backyard, and um, Mr. Cronizer came by. I forgot his name. Was Walt Cronizer, maybe? Came by. Everett Cronizer's dad was walking through the alley, and I was playing catch with my sister, and he stopped and he says, you signed up for Little League. And I'm like, I don't know, I can. And I did. And that kind of started my recruitment into baseball. So props to you, Lori, for, throwing balls at me at 100 miles an hour, making me catch them. But my recruitment for college started again at a Smith Post game. They were there. Purdue was there to see Joe Kelly. Prior to that, I was at Onondaga Community College. Out of high school, I begged people to take me. I wrote letters to a lot of different schools. But I was small. I was a second baseman. I had a good senior year, but senior year was really the only year I actually played consistently. I didn't play hardly at all as junior year. So um, I started. I write letters. I got nothing. So I went to junior college in Onondaga. And even then, I didn't even get to play. I was kind of I was a bench player at Onondaga until our All-American right fielder broke his arm, and they threw me in the right field. And ever since that day, I never missed another game. Right? It was kind of one of those things where, looking back on my career, it happened a lot. But my recruitment into Purdue happened because I was at a Smith Post game and I was facing Joe Kelly, and Joe Kelly was just a phenomenal left-handed pitcher in the area, out of Whitesboro
Yeah.
or Utica, and I mean he threw 95 miles an hour in Legion ball, and he was just every college was drooling over him. I think he ended up going to Georgia, but and that I had a great game against him. I think I may have had a grand slam and a 2-run double or something, and after the game, the coach came up and he said, "Hey, I was here to watch the pitcher, but would you be willing to come to Purdue and play shortstop for me?" And I was like, "When?" He goes, "Well, school starts in 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Well, I can't come in 2 weeks, but I can come next year." I just finished my freshman year at Onondaga, and I had a great year there. I had a really good year. So that was how the balls kind of got rolling for me, just kind of get me to college, and then college to kind of the next level of getting drafted, by Montreal.
And take us through that process too, because I know you were drafted a few times before you were
Yeah,
actually drafted. But talk to us about that.
yeah. I was back in the day when they had the January and June draft. They had two drafts. A lot of junior college guys got drafted in January. I got drafted by Pittsburgh, and for some reason, which to this day I honestly don't know why I didn't sign. Um, I just said, no, I'm going back to college. No, I'm back to college. And then obviously the third time when I got drafted by Montreal in the 5th round, and I was a junior, and I was coming off a great year at Purdue, and everything was just kind of in alignment. So it was kind of like, well, if I want to make a run at it, I should probably do it now. I always wonder what would happen if I did go back for my senior year at Purdue, because I mean I love the school, I love the coach. It was a great program. We had a phenomenal year, my junior year, but I don't know. Something just told me that just said, you know what, it's time. And I had trust in the guy, Stan Zielinski, the guy who signed me, and they were heavily invested in me. Montreal followed me everywhere. So I ended up signing and leaving Purdue when I was a junior.
Yeah, and I always say, and again, I'm more of a football guy, basketball and baseball guy, but I always say out of all the sports, people have asked me this question, which one's the hardest to play professional? And I always say baseball,
Hmm.
because you have single A, double A, triple A, what wooden bat league. There's so many different leagues. It's so hard to
Yeah,
get there.
I know it is. I don't know. Like I said, when you're actually doing it, you're kind of in it. and you don't think about anything else. I mean, it was kind of my job, but I really just liked playing, right? So I was caught in the moment, and didn't really think about everything else. But now that now that it's over and I went through it, now I go back and watch some of these college kids and college games and hear about the draft, and I just think, man, it's a grind, man. It's a tough road for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and you didn't do any single A ball though, right? You just did double A and triple A, or did you spend time in
No,
single?
I played in Jamestown my first year. So I was in the New
Yeah.
York Penn League. The second year I went to Rockford, Illinois, which is kind of a mid-level A, and then from there I went to double A, and then from double A I went to the big league. So I never played in triple A on my way up. I ended up coming back down and playing a few games there, but before I got traded. But yeah, no, it's a grind. And my son Angelo played, at Purdue. He ended up going to
Hmm.
Purdue and playing baseball there. He's a really good player, probably better than I was. He was definitely bigger and stronger than I was at Purdue. But when it got time for him to kind of move on and graduate, or take a shot at doing something, part of me was almost a little bit happy he didn't get drafted, because I just know it's tough, right? It's unless you're a number one pick or a number two pick or three pick, and they got some money invested in you now, it's a long road. You almost dedicate your 20s to it, right? And if it doesn't work out, you come out of it and you're like, okay, I'm 28, 29. What do I do now, right?
So, Ark, take us through the day you got the call when you got drafted. What was that like to finally hear your name and you're going to be playing in the big leagues?
Yeah. Well, I remember, we got a call from my scout, Stan Zielinski, who, we kept in contact over the years, that, they were going to take me in the fifth round. Um, at that point, I was almost kind of committed to sign. We've talked about different things. Stan, actually, I got a great picture of him coming to our house with my parents standing over me. I think it probably is even in the Sentinel, um, signing my contract. Get my signing bonus and everything, and it was just it was kind of a cool time, right? It was kind of memorable, but again, just part of me, it was just kind of like it was kind of a blur, because I really didn't know. Um, maybe I was, because I was young for my age. I graduated high school at 17, so I was kind of young, and I wouldn't say immature, but I was still growing, and I don't know. Just part of me just says, that growing up in a small town in Rome, just I was a little oblivious to kind of the bigger baseball world at the time. So I think that actually helped me, because I just signed and went out and just kept playing, like, didn't really miss a beat.
Yeah, and I always tell kids today, even in any sport, if you're good enough, they're going to find you. No matter what
Yeah.
town you're
Oh.
in, if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
Hmm. Yep. Without a doubt. No doubt. They have people everywhere, and they're always looking. They're always looking. I remember I went to so many local tryouts. I know the Pirates used to always have tryouts there for, in the summertime. For just different tryouts that you can go to and participate in, and you meet some of the scouts and people. But they're everywhere. They're always watching.
So now you got to take us through April 8th, 1992. You make your debut with the Expos. You get the call. What was that like?
Well, you know what? That was an amazing time in my life. One, I had a young family. I married a girl, Maria Riley, from Rome. We had a family early, just to be able to kind of, I don't know, just it was kind of a relief that we went through some speed bumps going through the minor leagues. I broke my hand, and at one point I wasn't even playing, and then when I did get to play, kind of like junior college, I made the best of it. Things worked out, and to be able to make the Montreal team coming out of Double A as a non-roster invitee was really kind of unique. And yeah, I remember my first time getting called into a game. It was a double switch in Pittsburgh, um, and I went in for Brett Barbary, who was playing third base, and I had to play catch with Tim Wallach across.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
played third and throwing it across first base to kind of warm up while the pitcher's warming up, and man, I was just throwing stuff all over the place. He was just like, can you throw one at me? No, here I am playing catch with Tim Wallach, a 15-year veteran, and he's jumping, he's reaching all over the place, and I'm throwing it like 100 miles an hour because I'm so juiced. But we laugh at that even now. It was kind of a funny time.
Well, it had to be a good moment, though. You're standing on that field and you're sitting there. You had to be saying, here's a guy from Rome, New York, from high school baseball to Legion baseball, Little League baseball. You're in the big leagues. I probably would have been, no kidding. I would have probably said to myself, don't hit it to me. Whatever happens this inning, don't hit it to me because I don't want to sail it over to first baseman's head. But I would have been a nervous wreck.
Yeah, you try to ignore those voices in your head that tell you that. But at that point though, it's kind of relative. I mean, I was lucky because I did play a lot of, as a non-roster invitee, every week they make cuts, and every week you wait to be cut, right? Because you're not on the 40-man roster, you're not on the active roster, so you think your time's kind of limited. And they gave me such a chance to play so many games because they just kept looking at me, and I kept getting hits, and I hit some home runs. I think I hit 4 or 5 home runs that spring training, right? And I was playing in big league games, and but I think that really helped me because it wasn't like I played a game here or played a game there. I was in the lineup every day because they really wanted to take a good look at me. So I guess I got a lot of experience at spring training, although spring training isn't, it's not the big leagues, with 50,000 people screaming at you and calling you names. But, at that point, I just thought it was kind of relative, going through the minor leagues. And still nervous, but excited for sure.
Now, does it go through your head though? Because unless you're, the Cal Ripkins and the Jeters and some of these guys, but like if you make it error, you go through a stretch where you're 0 for 15, you're in a slump. Do you have to a lot of guys have to panic and say, "Geez, am I going to get sent down tomorrow? Am I going to be on the roster?" Does that go through guys' heads?
That was pretty much my life my first 2 years because I was out of a 25-man active roster, I was always the 24th or 25th guy, right? I mean, for a while when I got traded, in my first couple of years in Montreal, I played a lot because that was a young team and they gave everybody a shot. But when I got traded over here, I got traded when Sheffield went to Florida, and they brought in me and Trevor Hoffman and a bunch of young guys. They were kind of retooling with all these young guys. And we all got a chance. So I played every day, when I got traded over here. And talk about going for an 0 for streak. I think when I got traded over here, I think I started out 1 for 31 or something. And I literally I remember looking up in Philadelphia, and I was hitting like 076 or something. And I'm just like, they just got rid of Gary Sheffield. And here comes me, supposed to be a young prospect, and I'm 1 for 31. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like, what's happening? But I ended up turning around. I ended up having one of my best years. I think I ended up at like 255 or something. But, in a half a year, I hit like 13 home runs and drove in a lot of runs. And it kind of turned quickly. I think after that, the rest of the year I hit like 300. So it's just it's baseball, right? It's a grind. You got to stick with it. And, it's just such a mental game that you really can't get caught up in the short term, pitfalls.
Now, Archie, I always hear a lot of the young guys say that there's a lot of veterans that teach them how to be a big leaguer.
Yeah.
What's that mean? Did you have some guys along your way in your career that had to teach you how to be a big leaguer?
I've had so many people. It's really amazing. Starting with my days in Montreal. I always tell people this. I was lucky. I think I literally played with 5 Hall of Famers, right? And a lot of people probably can't say that, right? It's pretty incredible. My days in Montreal when I was young, I had, Gary Carter, Rick Cerrone. I had, Larry Walker. And Gary Carter used to pick me up every day to take me to the ballpark. He literally pulled up in his van every day and gave me a ride to the ballpark because we had one car. We lived kind of on the west side of Montreal. It was far away. So just guys like that just, he didn't have to do that, right? It was just He was like, "Don't worry about it. I'll just come get you. I know you're young and you have a family and your wife's going to come later." And guys like that early on in my career were unbelievable, like just unbelievable. And we had a young team in Montreal too. I mean, Delano the Shields, Larry Walker, all these guys, Moises Alou. I mean, we were stacked with young guys, but we had Gary Carter, Spike Owen, Rick
Yep.
Cerrone.
Yep.
Were kind of like our veteran guys that kind of just made sure, and even on road trips, they were hilarious on road trips. I mean, Rick Cerrone used to, on every flight before we took off, he'd play Frank Sinatra and Fly Me to the Moon. And he'd get up in front of everybody and start singing it. And everybody had to sing it with him, right? It was kind of like, it was just those things that kind of, just really great memories. And, when I went to San Diego, I mean, I had the best Tony Gwynn, who was just amazing, right? I mean, he really took I think, my how to play baseball to the next level, because in Montreal I was young, right? I listened to the veterans, but I was just worried about staying there. I was just focused on just every day staying there. When I got to Montreal, I had a couple of years in the experience. So when I got to San Diego, Tony really just really took the young guys. He didn't have to, right? He was a perennial all-star, 8-time batting champion. San Diego got rid of all their veterans, kept him. He could have just cashed it in. He could have got traded. He could have went wherever he wanted to, right? He stayed in San Diego, in his hometown, and he just showed us what it was like to kind of be a 20-year veteran guy. He was out there early, every day, hitting early, working on things, and he just made you want to be out there early hitting with him. And I did. I went out, we'd be on the field at 12:30, every day hitting, and we didn't have to be at the field till 3:30, right? But he was out there every day, early batting practice, early batting practice, early batting practice. So I think he really helped mold me into kind of like that, just with the work ethic. And I think it resonated in San Diego. I think it was a key to our success in like 96 and 98, because by then all the young guys were on that routine, and even guys like Trevor, who had immediate success, as kind of a rookie, and it was, after 2 or 3 years was, kind of already established. He was coming out early. He'd be on the field at 12:30. We'd bring a football, and we'd have our trainer. We'd do sprints, right? We'd start on the line, and our trainer, we'd flip him the football, and then he'd throw the ball, and we'd run underneath it just to kind of stay in shape and get our running in. And so there were things like that I think just kind of came from Tony's work ethic of hitting early, that I think after 4 or 5 years, made everybody better, for sure.
And I want to go back to the Montreal days, because I was looking at some of the rosters. I know you mentioned Tim Wallach and Carter and Delino the Shields, but I think that was also the team that had Marquise Grissom, right? Grissom and Spike Owen and Ken Hill and Dennis Martinez, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, yeah. It was a phenomenal team. Honestly, it was such a good team. Especially since I was, I grew up a Yankee fan, so having Rick, he was funny, man. He was probably one of the funniest guys on the team. But I got off to such a great start my rookie year. I was I was in the running. They tagged me as a running for rookie of the year, right? It's kind of like my first 2 months were amazing. I had just had a great time, and I was playing a lot. Like every time I did something, every time I came back, you know how they have now, guys do helmets, or Boston does the wheelbarrow when they hit home runs and stuff. Rick used to, every time when I come into the dugout after hitting a home run or driving in a run or something, he'd be waving. He'd be waving like an invisible flag. They're waving the Italian flag in Rome, New York. They're all so proud, So it's just kind of fun. He was kind of one of those guys that would just joke and kid like that, but it just made it fun, right? It just made it enjoyable.
And Archie, you played for some good managers too, and we'll get into some of the San Diego, the 96, 98 teams, but talk about first Felipe Alou in Montreal. How special of a manager was he?
Man, talk about a guy with some experience, and just knowing baseball, right? I mean, and Felipe was kind of he was in the Montreal organization for a long time. I mean, he was he was their West Palm Beach manager. That was kind of their high A team where they sent like all their prospects because they knew Felipe would groom them and get them to the big leagues, or actually be able to, see who had talent, who didn't. And he was a big part of that Montreal organization and bringing up young talent because everybody had to go through Felipe, right, to kind of get to the big leagues, um, which is I actually skipped Felipe's level, so it was kind of interesting. I kind of wonder if that is that why I was traded when he became manager, but uh, but he was he was a huge part of that organization. It wasn't a surprise that he was going to take over being manager from Tommy Reynolds. I mean, it was a matter of time. But again, just a super guy, great guy. I mean, to have Moises on the team as well was great. Moises is a great guy. Um, so I think Montreal, it really helped solidify kind of the franchise, especially with all the younger guys that they had that became, you know, 10, 15-year big league guys, and Larry, a Hall of Famer, right?
And Archie, how tough was it when people say, it's good to have good utility players, but it's got to be tough because you don't get used to playing a certain position. You got to be ready to play any position in any given night. How tough is that?
Yeah, it's not easy. I give these guys today even just so much credit, right? It's like you get batting practice every day, but if and you get your work in taking ground balls and stuff, but it's not like being in a game, right? It's not. I was lucky in the way that I typically got a couple hundred at bats a year, only because I did a lot of utility with. I switched off and on with Wally Joyner. Wally struggled with left-handed pitchers, so I got to play against left-handed pitchers a lot when lefty was starting. So I was kind of that hybrid utility player. I mean, I played a lot of different positions, but typically I played against left-handers. Um, so I typically got more at bats than some of these other guys. But some guys only get 40, 50 at bats a year, right? And you're coming off the bench, typically facing someone in their bullpen, whether it's the stopper or it's the setup guy, because you're coming in late in the game. Um, it's really hard. It's hard to stay focused. I think it takes a kind of a special person and a unique kind of player to kind of do that. They always say like utility guys, if you put them in an everyday job, they'd struggle. But the good utility guys would struggle being an everyday player, and I do kind of believe that to some extent because I think it's just a different mindset, right? When you're coming off the bench and when you're going to be in the lineup every day.
Now, talk to us a little bit about when you get traded to San Diego. You get established with the family in one spot, and then you get traded. How tough is that transition? More on the family than it is for yourself.
Boy, I wish my wife Maria was here to tell you that story. We had 3 kids at the time, right? I mean, we were dragging our kids from minor league city to minor league city, right? And they were young. And I just remember I was on the road playing the Mets in AAA Tidewater, I think. And I always tell this story. We were out. It was my manager Tim Flannery, um, Rob Deere, and a couple other guys were out having dinner and drinks after the game, and we stayed out probably a little bit longer than we should. It's maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. Clint Hurdle was out with us. Actually, he was the manager of the other team, so Clint Hurdle was out with us and a couple of their players. And I came back to the hotel, and Tim Flannery came knocking at my door like 3 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Pack your stuff. You're going to San Diego. You're getting traded." So I ended up getting traded um, to San Diego, and I literally left 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. I was in
Wow.
San Diego. I actually was hanging out in San Diego. They told me just don't say anything. Stay in a hotel. We're going to have a trade that's going to clear a spot for you on the roster. So I'm sitting in Southern California, San Diego, weather like this, and I mean, I literally played golf for 3 days straight. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And then they announced the Gary Sheffield trade for Florida, and they got Trevor Hoffman in that deal. and that's kind of when things happened for me going from Montreal to San Diego. But back to Maria, I left her. Actually, I left her in minor league city just with the kids and a bunch of furniture and a lot of toys. And we had to get her from Ottawa to San Diego. So it was an interesting time for sure, kind of going all the way out west. But it was exciting.
And Archie, you played on some good teams, obviously in San Diego. I mean, you guys had the year in '96 that got all the way to the NLDS. I think it was St. Louis, right? Got you guys in the NLDS.
Yeah,
That was a good team.
St. Louis was they were a thorn in our side all year. I mean, they beat us up all year. We knew we were in trouble when we got matched up in St. Louis. For a long time, they've always been kind of a thorn in the Padres side for sure. They were really good though.
And who were some of the pitchers though throughout your Major League Baseball career that were always the toughest to hit? I mean, we always hear the big names, but who were some guys that people wouldn't maybe not know, the high profile guys that were tough pitchers?
Oh man, I still haven't gotten a hit off John Smoltz, so I think I'm going to be 0 for my lifetime against John Smoltz. To me, he was always the hardest guy to hit. I mean, he had just an electric slider that I was never a good off-speed hitter, but I could recognize the slider and tend to put it in play. I just could not see his slider at all. It was so tight and fast. The spin, it was so fast. I couldn't pick it up, and he knew it. But he was probably the hardest for me to face, and unfortunately, it just felt like I faced him a lot. I always played against the Braves. In Montreal, we shared a facility, so I got to see him a lot. But I was always the guy. If Steve Avery, if Tom Glavine, if those guys were pitching, I was always in the lineup because I always hit those guys so well. I think my lifetime batting average off Glavine's like 400 or something. It's like maybe 410. So when he was playing, I was always in the lineup. So if you ask me who the guy did the best on, it was probably Glavine. And actually Pedro I did really well against. But to me, Smoltzy was always kind of a guy that I just always struggle against.
Archie, how big was analytics when you played? Nowadays, you see on TV, that's all they talk about are the analytics, and then take away the analytics, the shifts in the field, what defense. How big was that when you played?
We never. I can only remember one time where we actually did a shift. It was only because there was bases loaded and it was extra innings, and we just did 5 infielders. Other than that, I don't ever remember moving to a shift position in the infield. Right? It was never done. We played guys the pole, and but we were always on the right side of the field or the left side of the field. We never crossed over. We did have analytics. Actually, the Padres had a lot more analytics probably at the time than most because Tony was so big into video. I think we were probably one of the first teams to have a organization hire a video guy and actually have a big video production thing inside the locker room. We had we were watching tapes. We had tapes on every starting pitcher. Tony, we'd watch him before the game. We had notes and books and things like that we'd look at when guys came in. But I think every team had that at that point. But it wasn't as in depth as it is now, right? It wasn't so AI computer driven as it is now, right? And it's it's a little scary, but I go back and forth on if it made the game better or worse. But I do miss that kind of human interaction that that we kind of lost with this whole computer-driven AI stuff.
So, Ark, you're a Yankee guy, 98 World Series. What was going through there? You're playing against a team that you grew up, you idolize, and here you are in the World Series with them.
It was amazing, man. That's one thing I out of all the things I think, playing in the big leagues and everything, it was cool. It was amazing, right? It was like a different life because it was so like when I look back on it. But to be able to, Greg Nettles was a coach, ended up being a coach on the Padres. I got to become friends with him. Willie Randolph was a coach for the Mets when I was playing, first base coach, and I got to talk to him all the time. And I got to talk to Bucky Dent. I got to talk to all these guys that were just, I'll tell people, my mom and dad know this all day long. I lived on West Dominic Street, and we had the wood slats on the house, and we had a little side yard. And man, I used to throw the tennis ball and dive and catch it, and pretend I was Craig Nettles and throw it to first base probably 10,000 times, right? And to be able to talk to him and meet him and become friends with him and tell him those stories was really cool. But again, walking in the Yankee Stadium, and I was there as a kid going on field trips, right? Sitting in the upper deck on bat day, and then going down on the field, and actually taking batting practice and having the Yankee fans yell at me and throw things at me was great.
And Ark, your San Diego team that year, I think you guys won 90, 95, 98 games.
Oh, man, I thought we were destined to win it all. I still think if it wasn't for the strength of the Yankee bullpen that year, I think we could have beat them. They had Stanton and I think Wetland and obviously Rivera. It was a 6 or 7 inning game for the Yankees that year at that point. If you weren't winning by the 6th inning, you weren't winning, right? Because those guys are unhittable. So except for game 2, we were out the 5-2 lead. In game 1 with Vonnie hitting a home run and Tony Gwynn hitting a home run. I thought at that point, this was ours. This was ours. Right? We were a team of destiny, right? And boy, they were good. They came raging back, and always took the lead late in games 3 and 4. Took the lead in the 6th inning, and boom, the bullpen came, and the game was over.
Now, Ark, did you ever face Rivera?
I did not. I've never faced him. No, thank goodness. Although I'd actually probably rather face him right-handed than a left-hander facing him for sure.
Yeah.
I always think probably it's always better to be right-handed facing him than left-handed.
Now, I got to ask you, too, in 97, I remember I came down, that was my junior year in high school. A bunch of us came to Cooperstown to watch you play in the Hall of Fame game. And take us through that, because I think you played 5 different positions. I think you even caught that day. But take us through how special was that? And you won the home run derby.
And I won the home run derby, which I still have the prize on my piano. I have got a little clock, so I still have that in memory. They gave me a nice clock, actually. So I am the last official winner of the Cooperstown Hall of Fame home run derby, because I think the next year it got rained out and then they discontinued it. So I think I'm the last official winner of the home run derby contest in Cooperstown, which is kind of cool, kind of a trivia question. But anyway, it was God, it was so much fun. I was looking forward to it kind of all year. My team was giving me just so much crap about it because they knew it was going to be such a Rome, New York event. And when we flew in to Oneida, you could see the people lining the runway and the fence with signs and everything. And oh man, I was getting just torn apart on the plane. It was just kind of funny. And I think the other players enjoyed it just as much as kind of I did going back home. We went to Rome, we went to Savoy, we had dinner, we ended up going, they met where they saw where I grew up, my parents' house. We went to my father-in-law's house, the Riley's house on Elm Street. And, just Andy Ashby, Trevor Hoffman, all these guys were with me. And Tim Flannery was playing the guitar in my father-in-law's living room for 2 or 3 hours. We drank beer and we were singing songs, and they just thought it was a great time.
That's
right?
awesome.
They loved it. Absolutely loved it. So it was a good chance for them to, to see Rome, New York and experience it. They loved it. The game was amazing because there were just so many people from Rome there. It was crazy how many people from Rome were there. And I just always appreciated the support the Romans gave me, for sure. Especially in Montreal. You talked about it, right? The bus trips. There were so many bus trips that went up to Montreal, especially opening day. There were just so many people from Rome there.
Now, Archie, when everybody talks baseball here locally, they always mention you, of course, and Lemke and Andy Van Slyke. How well did you know those guys?
You know what? I got to know Lemke really well. Because again, playing with Montreal, we shared a complex, so I got to know him pretty well. Really good guy. Andy, I never really got to know. I mean, I got to know him. I talked to him. We were kind of acquaintances and friends, but we didn't really. It wasn't like we hung out on the field talking during batting practice. So Lemke and I did do that. So Andy was kind of like more of a veteran kind of guy. So he was a little bit more. I don't want to say standoffish, but it was
Yeah.
just a little bit
Yeah.
more. He was kind of one of those guys that kind of stayed to himself anyway. He was kind of quiet that way. But he did talk to me, and we did share some experiences growing up. But Mark and I were just a lot closer, even from like Legion perspective
Yep.
and playing against each other and things like that. But yeah, no, I got to know him really well, so it was kind of fun. And like I said, when we did play in Atlanta, I typically always played. So hopefully, when I did get hits and got to second base, we spent some time talking to each other.
Well, Archie, you had to tell your players and your friends you played in the World Series, but the real World Series is the World Series of botch right here in Rome, right? How many of the guys know
Yeah.
about bocce?
Oh, they know about it now. They know about it in San Diego now for sure. Yeah, I'm really bumming that they haven't had it the last year, and probably not this year. It's kind of
No.
a Rome staple for sure, right? I mean, I think everybody in Rome looks forward to. We don't have our big festivals anymore, like the St. John's Festival, to bring
Yep.
people back to Rome. And, the World Series is kind of that big Rome event, so kind of miss doing that. But I still go back to Rome. I'm going back again in July, so we'll have a good time. I'm gonna play golf with my buddy Louis Viv. So there you go, Louis Viv. Shout out to you. Play some golf, enjoy the Rome summertime, and spend some time with the parents. And it's always fun. My kids love going back to Rome. They really enjoy it, and they range from 30 to 20 now, so they just love it.
So, Ark, I got time for a few last minute things here, but how about the state of the current Padres team? Boy, they're an exciting group, right? With
Oh,
Machado and Tatis. Boy, they're fun.
they are a fun team to watch for sure. You can never give up on them. They could be down 1, 2, 3 runs, late in the game, and they make you want to watch them because they're going to do something exciting. I was so concerned when Tatis hurt his shoulder. My son had that same injury in college. His shoulder kept popping out and swinging, and it's a tough recovery, right? It's something that typically without surgery, it's tough. But I mean, I think it's made his swing better. I mean, hanging onto the bat with two hands I think it's given him more power than he had
Yeah.
before. I think it's made him a better hitter, which is scary because he was good before. But they probably have the best left side of the infield in Major League Baseball, as far as I'm concerned. With Tatis and Machado. I mean, you can't find two better hitters and probably better leaders on the left side than those two guys, right? So excited. Obviously, missing Clevenger this year. I think with him, they would have been
Yeah.
lights out much better. Um, their pitching staff is still struggling, right? Um, they haven't. It's funny because their younger guys have really stepped up to be kind of the guys that are pitching well, like Weathers. The other guys that they got in trades that they thought they were, going to be kind of the long inning guys really haven't done that quite yet. And when they do, and they will, right? They will. Um, they're going to be tough coming down the stretch, and I don't think the organization is scared at all to kind of make another move to kind of late in the
Right.
season to kind of get them to World Series level kind of contention.
So, Ark, last thing, what's Arky doing nowadays? I know you're probably playing a lot of golf out there, but are you involved still in with the Padres or with baseball out
don't
there?
don't don't say the four-letter G word around my wife. It's a sore subject. I am playing a ton of golf. It's my second midlife crisis. I think my first was my Corvette. My second is golf. Um, but I'm playing a lot of golf. I still work. I still have an everyday job. I work for Seagate Technology. I've been doing that for 20 years. I'm in the high tech world. That's great. I work from home. Uh, So it's kind of something I'm used to doing, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great industry. But yeah, golf is kind of my Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Friday passion. So
Well, Ark,
Yeah, that's what I do.
when you come down the Rome, if you're here a while and you're here on a Saturday morning, you're more than welcome to come talk sports on the radio for a couple hours. We'll talk some baseball, but you're more
Oh
than
yeah.
welcome. But it's an absolute honor to have you on here tonight, and I appreciate you taking the time. And you've been a role model for a lot of us young guys back here growing up. You were the guy we wanted to be.
Well, thanks. Thanks. It's like I said, it was something I love to do. So I was lucky that, I found something that I love to do. So thank you for that. And by the way, I have to shout out to my sister Judy, because I mentioned Lori and my parents, and if I don't say Judy, she'll find me. She knows where I live. Say hey, Judy.
Well, Ark, listen, I appreciate it, man. And again, thanks for everything, and best of luck to you. Hopefully, we'll see you in July when you come here.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll give you a shout.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Enjoy the nice weather there.
All right. Thanks, Rock.
All right, Ark. Thank you. Boy, that was awesome. I was so glad. And at the end there, when I say all of us young guys, and I say young because obviously Arky's a little older than I am, but that's who as a kid playing Little League we wanted to be. We wanted to be Archi Cianfrocco. And I told Arky before we went live tonight, he was my baseball coach at Franklin Field Baseball. I still remember that. We'd go to Franklin Field all day, and he was just a guy that we all wanted to be. And I can't thank him. I can't thank his mom enough for getting me in touch with him, just to have him on here tonight. Listen to him tell some stories of growing up in Rome and what it meant to him and his family, and just his journey to get to the big league. It's not an easy journey, a lot of ups and downs, but Arky is a class act, and I can't thank him enough. So I do want to make sure I told people that I would give an announcement tonight. I am going to have Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, on the show here. I'm going to have him on in June. We're just trying to confirm a time. It's probably not going to be at 8 o'clock start, probably be a little bit earlier. Next week, I will not be doing a show next Wednesday night. I have to do a presentation for a school, so I won't be on here next week, but I'll let everybody know the schedule, when the next show is. But I really appreciate everybody following me here on this show and following us on Saturday mornings. I can't thank everybody enough. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm going to continue to do this thing every week. So, again, thanks to Archi Cianfrocco. Thanks to his mom. I appreciate it. Again, as I say on this show every Wednesday night, the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. Have a good evening, everybody.